Hello, Denise.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you doing?
Good, good.
Good. I know, me too. Don't worry. We're going to get through this together. It's going to be awesome. So hi everyone. My name is Meera, and I've got my lovely co-host here, Denise. And welcome to the very first, very rough and ready, joyful balance podcast with us two. The purpose of this podcast is manifold, but we'll go through all of that in detail in a second. But just to give you the headline, it's a journey through your brain, your mind, your body, and how all of these things are connected. We're going to explain a little bit about what the podcast actually is, what it's about, who we are, what you can expect from the podcast, and all these wonderful things. Bear with us. It's our very first one. Like Denise said, we're terrified. This is already our second attempt at recording because I like to use my hands when I talk, and it was causing problems with the microphone. So we're learning as we go. You're on the journey just as much with us. And yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be doing. How does that sound to you, Denise?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yes, it is a scary exercise, but nonetheless, we're here for it. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so let's just have a very short introduction about who we are and why we're here. So I'm Denise. I'm a cognitive behavioral hypnotherapist and a long life marketeer. So I have recently retrained in the field of psychology and psychotherapy after being a marketeer for very many years. But you know, the pandemic brought many things to life, and I'm sure I'm not the only one listening to this or talking on this podcast that has retrained or thinks about retraining. And on my own journey of rediscovering my mind and body, I've realized there are so many unknowns and things that I haven't learned in school. And then I just said, okay, if this is me, probably there are more people out there. So that's me in a nutshell.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Denise. So yeah, just to give you an introduction on me, I'm Meera. I am a nutritional therapist with an educational background in psychology and neuroscience. And I didn't retrain in the pandemic, but I retrained prior to the pandemic and qualified just before the start, actually, of the pandemic as a nutritionist. My own sort of journey to becoming a nutritionist was born out of personal necessity. So as we'll talk about probably in subsequent podcasts, I became really unwell and found that nutrition really helped benefit my mental well-being. And as a result, that led me to want to know the science a bit more, and that led to an entirely new career path. So I do many different things, but one of the things that I do that's really relevant to the podcast is I work in one-to-ones and in groups, and just want to bring education to the masses about why nutrition is so important for your mental and cognitive well-being.
Absolutely, and I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people out there who, as soon as they hear your title, they're like, oh, neuroscientist. I want to know more about that.
I tell you what, I always joke that my master's was worth doing for the name alone, because it raises like my IQ points by about 12.
I have no doubt. It's just like, wow. And
it was pretty cool.
Yes, it is really, really super cool. And I'm a little bit jealous because when you hear somebody's a neuroscientist, you get all of this tingly or fascination thing. And then when I'm telling people I'm a hypnotherapist, they're like, oh, you're going to control my mind. You're the,
Yeah, you must get that so much. Like when I studied psychology as an undergrad, they were like, oh, are you going to be able to tell what I'm thinking? It's like, no.
Like... no, and I don't particularly want to either. That would be really exhausting.
But I think what you do is pretty awesome as well. Like, in terms of like having that ability to, because as someone who's gone through a lot of therapy themselves, like that ability to really impact someone's life is massive, and that's pretty awesome.
It is super, super awesome. It's just as we will go through various episodes and we will be discussing this more, and we will explain maybe the field a little bit more. It's also, rife with misconceptions and myths, and pop culture doesn't particularly help hypnotherapists out there, because people imagine that we take over mind control and, we, I don't know, show you a pendulum and then you'll be completely under our spell. And it couldn't be further from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say that actually reminds me, and obviously you're going to completely dispel how you work with hypnotherapy. But when I was at university, part of the Freshers Week activities, which I'm pretty sure they wouldn't do now, is they would bring in a hypnotherapist, but who would do it as a party trick almost. And he would get some of the freshers on stage and like make them do things that now probably wouldn't fly in the face of 2022, quite rightly, I should say. But yeah, it was
yeah, I think, without getting too much ahead of ourselves into our next episodes and things like that on this podcast, but what I would like to address is there is a big difference, and I mean huge, large, massive, between being a stage hypnotist, i.e. what you've just described, and being a hypnotherapist or a psychotherapist or a psychologist that uses hypnosis.
Absolutely.
Couldn't be further from each other. And one is for the sake of entertainment. The other one is very much for the sake of the well-being of that person that is under hypnosis. But I'm sure we will discuss it. And, over the episodes, we'll get questions from you guys listening in. And I'm very happy to address all of them. I'm an open book. And if I don't know the answer, I'll ask other people. Smarter.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agreed. I'm really looking forward to understanding more about hypnotherapy myself, actually, and kind of going into that with you, which is exciting.
It's really cool. Yes, and that will complete our journey of the brain and the mind and how
absolutely
all connect.
So should we talk a little bit about our mission?
Sure. I think if we can describe it in a nutshell, we are very much geared towards education. I think now social media, pop culture, full of misconception, misinformation, and recently, in my view, psychology became this trendy thing, and a lot of inspirational bollocks out there on social media. And I think our main goal, at least my main goal in this dialogue with you, is to address those misconceptions and educate and, bring research and science into it, and helping people understand that we're not just the mind, we're not just the brain, and we're not just the body. Everything flows together. And some people will also add spirit into it. So.
Oh, totally. And like, there's a really big, like, I think this will probably be an episode in itself where we start probably going way into philosophy than we maybe intended to. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's very much all interconnected. And I think for me, the one thing that I think where we also really struggle is, every even when you think about healthy eating or like eating in general, it's always on the spectrum, right? And we all can fall into sort of habits that are more towards what we think and know is healthy, and then what we also think and know is unhealthy, and we kind of like we sit somewhere on that continuum at every meal, snack, choice of time of the day and whatever. And I think for me, part of this podcast is absolutely we should be talking about the science behind nutrition and psychology and habit change and behavior change, which is also what this podcast is massively about. But it's also about promoting balance and about enjoyment and about the fact that we're human and not every day is going to be perfect, where like you can get up and make yourself a kale smoothie and do all the things and have this like perfect day in terms of what is health. And I think what for me a big part of this podcast is also bringing the human element to it. It's helping you understand the science but bringing the human element to it, which I think you and I are going to be able to do very, very well together, which also makes me doubly excited to kind of just get involved in these conversations.
Absolutely. And I always say to people and to my clients is practice makes progress, and practice never makes perfection, because perfection is just an illusion.
It's a mirage. Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's just that little oasis in the desert that now you see it, now you don't, kind of thing. And I don't think it's something that we should strive for either. And in recent years, it's been perfection. I mean, it's been promoted as the thing to aspire to in being stellar employee, specifically in the corporate world. And people started wearing that badge with honor. I'm a perfectionist. Yeah, I would say I'm a progressist. I will make better next day than I've done in the past. And perfection is just it's a mirage, as you say.
Oh my God, I love that. Like I say I'm a recovering perfectionist in that I have very high standards which aren't necessarily attainable, and they don't make you feel good when you don't attain them. So I know that's something that I'm working on. But yeah, I love that, like thinking more about progress. And I wish I could remember it right now. You might know this quote. Have you heard of a person called Dr. Kristen Neff?
It doesn't ring a bell right this instant.
She talks a lot about self-compassion, and maybe we can talk a bit more about that in a separate podcast episode, like just the idea as a fly. But she made this quote that I learned on another panel discussion I did, where like she said, whoever said that we needed to be perfect? I think it was her. And if someone writes in and say no, that was someone else who said that completely, by all means correct me. But I quite like that. It's like, who said that we had to be perfect? We just don't. And I think that's another really important string to our bow when we're thinking about this podcast, and kind of, what we want to also bring to all of this. Like, we all can make, I don't know, how do you feel about randomness? How do you feel about the 80-20 rule? Because that's kind of what I live by personally. And that's what I'm always saying to clients, right? Like, for me, like, it's being as, not a good or bad, but as in eating well and healthily and balanced. Absolutely. 80% of the time, and 20% of the time you do what you like, because you got to also enjoy life.
I think in my particular view with my clients, what I tend to do is I create like a little graph with where are you now and where do you want to go. And most of the clients, they would assume I go from here to here, poof, it's a straight line. This is what I'm going to do. And then I'm actually telling them, well, not really. You're going to go up and you're going to go down, and you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows, and some lows are going to be really bad, but they are just blips. Yeah. And that's how I see them. I see them as blips, in the sense that you want to work towards a healthy lifestyle from all angles. And some days you're just going to be very, upset or sad or angry, and you're going to grab some more cookies than you normally do. But that doesn't change your life or your reality. That's just a blip. Or in the case of the clients that I work with who are trying to reverse some unhealthy habits, such as biting their nails. Yeah. Okay, you've been doing so much progress and you're, doing everything right. And then one day, one nail might suffer. It's a blip. It's compassion again that you mentioned earlier. I always ask people to look at themselves with curiosity and compassion, because if you understand what made you do whatever habit you didn't want to do, and be compassionate towards it, rather than self-flagellation of punishing yourself like you were a monk in 1950s or even before that, doesn't help you. It doesn't promote growth. It would just make you feel, possibly shame, and you're just gonna completely say, oh, fuck it, I've destroyed my diet, which is not helpful. So I agree with your 80-20 perception. I just sometimes shy away from giving percentages, because I'm worried that some people will take it too literal.
Yeah.
And there I say, sometimes you have a blip, and that's just life. You have a blip. And in the same time, I mean, come on, we all love ice cream and gelato. And how sad would our lives be without having ice cream ever again? We need to
Yeah,
enjoy those things.
yeah, I know what you mean, and I think like I've definitely been on that sort of journey myself, for like, in terms of like being quite strict and then having moments. This is before like I kind of got to where I am at
Hmm.
my point, in life, and kind of, especially when you go through the nutrition track of like being quite evangelical about certain
Hmm.
practices of eating, but then actually I try to just become a bit more balanced in my kind of view, and that's how I basically decided on the name for my business as well, is because I really wanted to, I'm Balance Me Nutrition. That's how you'll find me on
Hmm.
Instagram. Your Joyce Best Therapy. um I think it was about me, wanting my clients to find a balance in life that works for them,
Hmm.
and that helps them feel healthy, and kind of be healthy, but also
Yeah.
allows them to enjoy life, because otherwise what's the point?
Exactly. That's yeah. That's the thing. You need to make sure that you are eating right for yourself, and you are providing your body and your mind with all of the nutrition that it needs to in order to function properly. And we will
Yeah.
talk more about this. And there are, a truckload of papers and research that it exists. That's one of the primary things we need to consider in our lives is nutrition and balanced diets. And when I say diets, I'm not referring to whatever fad diet is new and trendy online. I'm talking about everything that we put in our mouth.
Yeah.
And it's so important that we take this balanced approach to it, because yeah, we need to enjoy some little moments and some bigger moments, and not everybody enjoys, I don't know, sugar free, lactose free, dairy free, everything. And that doesn't mean that some people that do, if there's anything bad with them. You should just
Yeah.
enjoy your food. That's my main thing. And I don't know if I went on a ramble there. We will hear it on the
Not at
recording.
all.
But I think food is there to be enjoyed. And my example is looking at the Mediterranean countries.
Yeah.
So Italy, Spain, Greece, they enjoy their food. France, they take time for it, they cook it, they prepare it, they have all good ingredients in them. And somehow that is lost, I think, in other countries. And that's a shame.
I agree, and there's so much research to, and we can talk about this more in detail in subsequent episodes, and I'm sure we will. There's really good evidence to say why the Mediterranean diet patterns are so healthy, and part of that is down to cooking regularly, fresh ingredients, enjoy, like sitting down to enjoy meals, and having that social element is also really beneficial for your health. Um, you know, and those kinds, and as well as actually what is within those, what is within that
Mm.
diet that makes it so healthy, like using loads of extra virgin olive oil as your main source of fat, and having oily fish, and a lower intake of red meat, not no intake but just lower. um
There are
yeah,
many
and I
facets. Yeah,
there are,
many.
but the point is like that there's I agree, some of that is lost in other countries, in other parts of the world. um and yeah, like you say, there's so many different aspects to that aren't just food related, but are the
Mm.
environment that also surrounds a food, that are really, really important when you're thinking about a diet that's beneficial for your mind, your brain, and your body.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's yeah. I think if we were to summarize in a nutshell why this podcast, and what's in it for you, the listener. Well, dear
Yeah,
listener,
totally.
we're gonna take you on a wild ride. We
Absolutely.
are going to tell you that diets don't work, and we will give you a lot of facts, a lot of knowledge, and we will share our own experiences as
Hmm.
people who are work in progress and don't have all the answers.
Hmm.
And we will take you on this wild ride of the brain, from the nitty gritty, as in what is the brain, what does it do, to the mind and how it works, what does well-being mean for your mind, and balance, and all of the good things that form it, and also talk about your mind body connection. And we will definitely touch some of the spiritual aspects as well. If I've forgotten any other aspects, please bear with us. Nerves are rife in the first episode.
No, you're smashing it. You're doing really well.
Thank you. And that's why we came together. Because
yes,
and that's why we came together.
Yes, this is a part of the story I'm really excited to get to. But yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. So now, I mean, just one of the reasons why we got together is because of this element of, support and guidance to each other, and, feeling okay to say, yeah, you're doing great, and feeling okay to say, whoa, not really, not this time. That's very important.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've shared dinner, we've sat and worked together, and yeah, we'll get to that part of the story in a second. But it's I agree with everything that Denise just said. Like, we're on a journey, our own journeys, as much as we're bringing you with us. We'll definitely do the sciencey piece because that's massively important, but we're also going to bring you the human element, and this I think the idea of this podcast is it's to really give you a sense of power, right? That you have your own autonomy, you have your own ability to support yourself onto a journey of feeling better about you. And that can be because, you've got a pattern that works for you, because you have found better balance in your diet, and that's helped you feel more confident in yourself. Like, there's just so many facets to eating sort of well and taking care of your health that we're going to kind of really explore. And I think for me, another key takeaway that I'm hoping you'll get out of this, and why you should really care, is because we're going to be, sorry, my headphones trying to come out of my ears. It's like we're going to just be encouraging you to give you the confidence to know that you can do this for yourself, and that we're doing it for ourselves, and we're having blips along the way, and we're having moments where it's a bit easier, and we're going to be sharing all that with you because we're human too, right? We're not perfect. We don't promote perfectionism. We are just as messy as everybody else out there. God knows that's going to come out from my side of things. I am a very open book, and you'll get that definitely from the podcast. So we're on this journey with you, and we're here with you, and we want you to be as enthusiastic and as motivated and as hopeful as we are. That's kind of what I want you guys to be able to take away as well.
Absolutely. One last sentence on that from my end is, you, dear listener, we want you to enjoy whatever it is you're doing, and find more of those moments of joy, whichever shape or form they take for you. That's what it's all about. Because without joy, I don't really know how we can do it for a long time.
Agreed.
Yeah,
totally.
Now,
right, before we do that, I'm just going to take a quick coffee sip. But yes, I do drink a bit of coffee. But yes, carry on.
Yes, me too. But I switched to water because it's
smart. Okay,
I'm
ready.
No, I did have coffee. Don't get me wrong.
No, it's just like I thought. When we were starting this, I was like, I should have had my coffee before we started the podcast, and then had switch to water. Not because I want it to look like that, like anything in particular, but more just so that it doesn't distract the listener from the podcast. But yeah, I was not organized this morning, so I got to my coffee a bit late. But carry on, please. Sorry.
It's no. I was just taking lead on to the last part of our first initial episodes, which is literally just for you guys to hear a little bit about us and understanding why we're here, why did we start this, but also how we met. So as I said earlier, I was very excited about Meera's title, and when she said she's a neuroscientist, I was like, I really need
it's
to
the only thing she was excited about, guys. That was it. She just had neuroscience. She wasn't interested in anything else.
That's not true. But initially I was completely like, oh, wow, I get to meet one of these. It's like rocket scientist kind of. At least it was in my eyes, And I was like, okay, so this is my rocket scientist meetup that I get to experience. And we met up at a place in Northwest London called The Half. It's a
shout out.
Yes. Hi, Oiling. And Angie, hopefully both of you are listening. And we met there, which is a place for women to come together and work and have a sense of community. So it's a workspace, but it's also a place where you can have events and where you can meet new people, have a chat. And yeah, that's how Meera and I met last year, which sounds crazy to say because it's already been a long time.
Yeah.
But I think this, small bracket, I think the whole pandemic thing just, I don't know when time flew. So
I don't need like,
I'm still in 2019, guys.
Yeah. I've like convenient. My brain is forgetting that whole thing happened.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Small bracket aside, that's where I met Meera, and then we started having conversations, and then she gave all of these talks about nutrition and sugar and the brain and what does it look like, what does it do, and working with clients that are interested in better diets for themselves. Again, whenever I say diet, I am not referring to those crazy things that you need to eat 2 apples a day in order to lose weight. Those are not part of my, so I just want to make that very, very clear, because I know the word can mean 2 things for people.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was learning so much from Meera, and then I said, you know what, we need to sit down and have a conversation, because I think together we can build something really, really great. And I think secretly Meera was thinking the same thing.
Obviously. Absolutely. So yeah, so basically I think you and I just started working on like the same days. So this is the Hearth is a co-working space and a members club, essentially all in one. And Oiling, who's the founder, and she's got an incredible team around her, including Angie, are the most excellent pair at helping women network with each other. And that's how you and I started talking, and how I started talking to Denise. And I am someone, as you'll gather from the podcast, who once they starts talking does not shut up. And and I was asked to kind of give a talk or two at the Hearth, and again that's how Denise and I got talking even further. And it happened that we would work on the same days, and then it was like like we're like, oh, we should really join forces, because I have nothing but respect for psychotherapists out there, including people like Denise. I've said, I've done a lot of therapy myself. I still do therapy, and I know how beneficial it is, and how it's I've never thought about mental well-being and brain well-being as being one thing. It's about a whole suite of things that we do. So it's not just about nutrition, it's not just about therapy, but it's about combining things like this, as well as other things like sleep, which I know Denise can talk a lot about, and so can I from my perspective. It's about a whole holistic way of looking after your mental well-being and your physical well-being. And so that we kind of thought, okay, well, what can we do in this space, to kind of bring everything together? And we thought, well, I've always wanted to do a podcast. It's been like a lifelong dream of mine. And sort of, and through various iterations of what we wanted to do, we decided this was a great place to start.
Yep. And here we are today.
And here we are, finally. So it's taken a few weeks of planning, but we got there, and we're giving it a go, and we're going to see how it goes. But we're really looking forward to hopefully this will be the first of many, many episodes that we're going to bring to you, and that will delight your ears. And yeah, we're looking forward to more of this to come.
Yep. That's why we're here. We just want to share our knowledge with everybody, whoever listens or watches us on YouTube, and just know that you're not alone. And
absolutely,
things happen, and that's fine. And at least in our generation, we weren't taught many things in school that we learned through therapy or through our own further studies. And that's what we want to do. We want to share that with everybody, so that it becomes very obvious and very easy to navigate some things which can sound very complicated. But when somebody, breaks it down for you, you're like, oh, actually that's not that complicated. And that's, I think, in a nutshell, what we're trying to achieve.
Totally, totally. Yeah. Like, we're here with you. We're in your ears whilst you're sitting on the sofa, whilst maybe you're cooking or you're on the move or whatever. We're here with you in your ears to let you know that we have our own struggles. We've learned a lot. We want to share that with you. We want you to hopefully get something out of it. Or if not, just make a couple of friends that you tune into every now and again. And, what we'll kind of do is once we're up and running a bit more, like, feel free to contact us through Instagram or direct message us, whatever. And if you've got any questions or anything specifically that you want to know, get in touch. Comment below on the video, whatever it is that you're doing, and let us know any questions that you have, anything that you want to know about, and we will do our best to give you the most scientifically valid and accurate answer, but also that is very human and gives you that light bulb moment of understanding, because that's what we want to bring to you as well.
Nothing much
Amazing.
bad. Nothing much bad. Yeah. So hold on.
I think that's it.
Hold on. Yeah.